Hello, and welcome to Brain Soup, a channel where I talk about whatever may be simmering away in my neurodivergent little mind. If you're new here, hi, I'm Paula. I found out I have ADHD at 39 years old, and I post videos about neurodiversity from the perspective of a late diagnosed adult. If that sounds interesting to you, please stick around. And if you'd like to send some extra kindness my way, please do all those lovely content engagement things that keep the YouTube algorithm happy. Today, I'll be talking about the things I do to survive meetings when I have ADHD and it's not appropriate in the work environment to be standing up or fidgeting around or causing a distraction to my coworkers. You may have noticed we got barely 30 seconds into the video here when I started moving my feet. Having the ankles crossed allows me to put some pressure between my feet and kind of compressing things and then swaying my ankles side to side helps me stay grounded in place. A trap with inattentive ADHD is that the inner world is oftentimes much more interesting than the external world. And when we're talking about long meetings with minimal employee engagement encouraged, it can be very tempting to go off with the pixies in the internal world. In this video, we're going to pretend that anytime that I'm waving to my daughter in the playground off camera or reaching into a bag has been a time when I've needed to respond to something in a business context in a meeting. So here we're showing something that I'm doing with my hands to keep myself in the moment, and that is clasping my fingers and putting pressure, which does a pretty good job of keeping me in the moment. But in particular, if I'm doing that on the desktop, it can signal tension to other parties of the room. Now here I've shifted my legs, crossed them. Mileage definitely varies with this one depending on what your business attire is. And a lot of time with the foot all the way up, foot, ankle on knee crossed like this, it's not the most professional look. But here, one thing I find very helpful when it's appropriate for the setting is, again, I'm placing pressure on my knee with my ankle, and then with the knee that's raised, I'm pressing against the bottom of the table here. And that's kind of keeping me in my body and in the moment, feeling where I am in space. Now I've taken the pressure off the table, from underneath the table, and I'm bouncing my foot. And of course, depending on the furniture in a meeting room, this definitely may or may not be appropriate because there could be squeaking or show more bouncing above what's visible above the tabletop. Oh yes, participation. Yes, I'm fully engaged, honest. Okay, now here's another fidget that I do with no tools required, and that is tapping my fingers at various speeds, going pinky to index and back in any kind of order. This is good because it's discreet, it doesn't require any tools, and it connects me to my body and keeps me present in the moment. Here I'm holding the base of the table and pulling back. In office equivalent, if you can't grip the bottom of the table, would be to be pressing against the back of an office chair, which, depending how much they flex, could have a bit more of an impact. Another thing I might do with, and again, just my hands required, no tools, is kind of manipulating my fingers and joints, just kind of feeling along the fingers up on each knuckle and kind of stretching and twisting, which as an idle movement is fine. If I This can sometimes get a bit more energetic, and as you can see here, it's showing a bit more up to my elbow, which makes it not the most unobtrusive of stim movements that I could be making. Also, if I'm holding tension, there's a risk that the movements could get a bit more extreme and put undue pressure on my joints. Absolutely, I'll take that action item. Happy to help out. Right now, we're getting into having prepared for a meeting, going into it in advance, and preparing with some sensory tools to help me stay engaged in the moment, also known as fidget toys or stim toys. Here is a kind of snaky looking friend that's got a bunch of bright triangles that pivot along each triangle. It moves quite nicely and works fairly well. It's relatively quiet. The downside on this one, though, many of these types of tools have fairly sharp corners, which kind of make my fingers sore after a little while, which isn't really ideal. Also, the particular example one that I had is very brightly colored, which could draw my coworkers' attention away from the meeting at hand. This one is a similar style, except the movement joints are more rounded. Also, it can come apart and be put back together in different configurations. The movement is more smooth, but as you can hear, I left the audio on that, and it has a much more pronounced noise when it's going. It's a fairly satisfying clickety-clack, and in other contexts helps my mind to tick away at a problem or come up with a response to an email, but not the best for a meeting context because it will absolutely distract my coworkers here. And here is a smaller item. It fits more smoothly into a little pocket to take along with the meeting, which is good. It's a cute little squishy character, looks like a sleeping cat. The resistance to it is not very much. It squishes and smooshes quite readily, which is pretty satisfying. But for a longer meeting, it has diminishing returns for keeping me grounded because it's not providing enough resistance to really stay in the moment over time. Also, I found that this particular style of tool tends to come with a kind of powdery coating, and it smells a little bit strange and also doesn't feel very nice on the fingers for very long. All right, and of course we can't talk about fidget tools without the ever so famous Pop-It style. This one came as a bracelet. It's still very brightly colored, which is not the most, somber, business appropriate color scheme, and can be manipulated smoothly enough with, enough intent that it won't make too much of a pop sound, but it's very easy to keep the pop, and it defeats the purpose at that stage, because what we're wanting to achieve is to stay focused in the moment and not draw attention to the actual tool. But here, in order to be quiet enough not to be a disturbance to other people in the meeting, I need to direct my attention to the tool itself. So it's definitely defeated the purpose and not a good choice for this particular context. Now here we've got a long, stretchy, rubbery, noodly little strange creature. It's got lots of kind of pokey, fuzzy feeling of the same rubbery material on it. It feels quite smooth in the hand, or rather interesting, at least in the hand. It feels nice. The stretch and how it very easily wraps and bends around the fingers is quite satisfying. It's a little bit larger of a tool in terms of fitting in a pocket to be unobtrusive, but I'm noticing here it's still doing a good job of keeping the movements fully under the table because of how smoothly it's wrapping around my hand. And finally here we have what I've had in my pocket or handbag ready to go for quite some time. It's my go-to tool, just a little rubber string. And I didn't actually notice until I was watching the playback of this video that it's not as unobtrusive as I thought. Most of my movements are still under the table in terms of actually manipulating it and not showing the tool itself, but depending on how I'm swirling it around my fingers, there is some more movement visible up into my forearms and elbows. So this was a learning experience for me as well, because it looks like I would be better served for unobtrusive sensory tools to actually swap this purple go-to rubber string with that little fluffy unicorn creature going forward, even though it takes up a little bit more space in my pocket. So that's all I have today. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll talk soon. Bye.